Patience and thought are not wasted, right? And unfortunately, in our lives, we spend a lot of time doing a lot of things. But lately, we've been having deeper conversations, which were something that I was looking forward to 3 years ago, right? So, what you're learning, see, this is the importance of the knowledge that you search, right? Because I already have the information and the data from experience because the way I think and the way you think is out of the box.
Right.
So I've spent 30 years talking to everybody.
Right. You talk to many people from many different walks of life.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I've talked to crackheads, seen crackheads, prior crackheads, drug dealers,
Right.
millionaires,
You
billionaires,
see very high
rich,
class top
poor,
to the
right.
bottom barrel.
Yeah, I've seen the whole world. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to do because fortunately back then, in order to get knowledge, you had to search. So I spent time, but I've been very lucky in my field because my entire life has been communication, right? And when you have a nightlife background and you actually spend time communicating with every type of person that comes into a nightclub, then you meet more people that then go out and bring you connections. Like I had musicians, I had guys who were writing Grammys, and they would bring me their friends who were bankers. So you'd be like, okay, so this guy writes music and it wins Grammys, but then he's like, I need you to meet my friend. And this guys are CEOs of banks, right? And you're like, okay, because these people go out and they're in galas and they're in these events, and then people are their fans or they like them, and they get together. So I've had the privilege of having technicals where I've had many relationships with really good people who then were like, you need to meet my boy VC. And then they would bring me all their people. So I didn't have to go out to the red carpets, the galas, the parties, the places, because I had friends that were, or acquaintances that were traveling the world, and they would then introduce me to these acquaintances. Right. So it was as if I met them at the events, right? So I've been very fortunate to where people have been very interested in introducing me to their friends because they had an issue, a problem, a thought, a business, an opportunity.
You were acting as a bridge.
Yeah, I'm more like, I guess at the end of the day, I would be the ultimate consultant.
Right.
Whether it's business, life, projects, building something, because I have, absorbed a vast amount of information.
Yeah, and you talk to many people. Like you were born under the Pluto and Libra generation. You guys were very your journey is through relationships, crisis and transformation. So you're really good with people because of that, and your whole generation. Because you guys were very concerned about relationships. You wanted a relationship. You wanted to get married. You guys wanted to have divorce. Your guys' generation was very focused on balance and relationships.
And see, that's
and business. You guys were like,
So this is the moment of the what we say the aha moment, right? I know what makes me very different from most. A lot, I will say, is this: is I have what's called blind faith, okay? Which is simply wherever I come from or wherever I have whatever lifetimes I've lived, I'm very accurate on who I am. So it doesn't matter when I come back who I am or my status or where I am in life. I always find my truth, which is once I don't waver from who I am. Like I walk like I've always walked. I believe like I've always believed in every lifetime.
Well, in your chart, right? I like what you're talking about. It excites me because I know exactly what in that chart makes you feel that way. Because you're a Gemini, but your North Node, your destiny, right, is in the opposite side of Gemini, which is Sagittarius, right? So your identity in this lifetime is actually your destiny, what you already did in a previous lifetime. That's why you feel like when you grew up. And the only reason why I understand this is because I also have the same thing. I'm a Capricorn, but my North Node is in Cancer. So you came into this lifetime already, like you might have already known. You were one of those people like, oh, I know what I'm meant to do very early on in your life because your identity is the identity that you were in a previous lifetime. That's why you carry, like some people when they come into lifetimes, they carry or they know exactly what the talents they had in previous lifetimes because they already done it and they came to this life still with the same talents as you had in previous lifetimes.
Well, you just have and that's what I mean, like, and some people can feel it but can't execute, right? That's why I'm always telling people it's all about execution, okay? There's a million ways to do something, but the only way that matters is one, and that's the execution one. Doesn't matter. And the difference is I don't waver from what I believe, right? And that's just a mentality that is just, born, and it just becomes what it is, right? And some people can't, they need like what they call aha moments, right? Which is where what you study and what you understand will help someone that has my abilities but's never reached their their potential.
Really excited about
because having the some people need faith, right? Faith is where you see a miracle, right? That's why people need to see miracles. That's why people are when the Mother Mary cries, everyone goes. I don't need to go see a statue cry because I already believe in what I believe, right? I don't need to see a miracle to know what I know, right? And that's how you can tell how lost we are as people when so many people travel to worship a miracle. And it's clear that by doing that, you actually don't have faith because you need to see something to tell you to have faith, which where most people live in their life. But the science and what you're doing is you have the ability to explain. You have the ability to write out a blueprint and say it doesn't matter what you think, how you feel, or what you believe. This is your life blueprint.
Right.
And no matter what you do, this is what your life is supposed to do, what you're capable of, and what is possible and not possible. Right. Now, it's your choice, hence free will, right, to either live to your potential or allow the world to take away your movement because you listen to the world, not yourself. So that is what the difference is between success and not success, right? Now, some people have limitations on how much they can do in certain areas, and this is where the understanding of what you also have for people that have high abilities in certain areas but not others is where they can sit down and see their limitations in certain areas, and then you can curve your abilities in those areas because you already know that you can't be very successful there, but you can manage to get yourself successful enough to then find someone who can then fill that area and then make your place even better, right? So that's where learning how to, delegate, right? We always say, you have to be a delegate, is to get yourself where the smartest people in the room know they're not the best person in every situation, right? they put the smartest people in every situation where they belong. The smartest person builds a team of people and puts them in the places they belong to have the strongest team, right? That's what intelligence is, knowing your limits,
and
right?
That's what's interesting because in my new Destiny Matrix chart, right?
Yeah.
Which is really cool for me because it's like me finding another birth chart of some other kind. So it's like interesting how I can find 7 new astrologies and they're gonna tell me the same thing every time.
Yeah.
But
So
for us, we both have so in this Destiny Matrix chart, that's what they call it. You have an inner self and an outer self. Kind of like an inner astrology, like your inner self is kind of like your sun sign, which is your birthday. You're a Gemini, I'm a Capricorn. And then you have like your something called your rising sun, which is kind of like your personality, how other people view you. It's the same thing in this one. So you have an inner self and outer self. We both have the same outer self, which is the number 10, which is interesting because we're both born on the 28, which is 2 plus 8 is 10. So it's again same
numerology,
thing, right? Which 10, which is cool because they utilize tarot cards. So each tarot card actually is kind of like a poker deck,
right?
You know, you have
it's all numbered: kings,
jokers,
queens, jokers.
Yeah. So our number 10 is tied to the Wheel of Fortune. That's the card that we have. We both have. Even your dad had that in his inner self, which is interesting.
Yeah. And he's an interesting character.
Right.
He lacked execution.
Yeah. But see that I can see that like in his chart. But for us, it's still the same thing. So we have outer self, which is the Wheel of Fortune. So other people view us as very lucky. It represents changes of fate. Like you just always go where you're supposed to go. Like because we're very in tune with like.
That's our gameplay.
Yeah.
That's our path. That's our treasure chest. You can't change who you are.
Yeah.
You can only adapt and strengthen your weaknesses.
Yeah. But it's interesting because we both have that. And your dad has that. But instead of outer self, that's his inner self. And then he has a different outer self, which affects that.
Well, that's why he couldn't execute. My father created 40% of the products in beauty care. Yeah. And he owns nothing.
Yeah, that's his
This man has built empires.
He could build empires.
No, he built empires. Yeah. He just didn't claim them. Yeah. People came in and they say, hey, man, I want to start a beauty line. And then he would create a beauty line and then give it to them. And they would make millions of dollars and then fire him from being the guy who made the bottle. Yeah. Because he wasn't smart enough to get a copyright, a patent, or to charge them correctly. Because he fails at execution.
Which that has to deal with, again, it's interesting.
But that's where you can look at his chart and you can see where he fails. So you can tell someone who has everything that they should win because they know they should. Some people are very talented in making a lot of things and then they never get anything from it. And you can turn around and go, well, this is why. Yeah. See, you have a why to why things don't happen. Yeah. And that's where people, unlike me, need. I don't need a why because I don't stop. I'm relentless. And I have blind faith. But other people, 98% of the population has faith, which means they need testimonials. I don't. They need to know why before they can succeed, which to me is like, it makes no sense because the why doesn't get you paid. You know what I'm saying? The why doesn't get it done. The why doesn't a winner, right? I don't need to know why I didn't hit that one shot in that game. I just need to know how I can the next time. I'm a how can, not a what happened person. And that is something that is not, I mean, I've spent my lifetime in many buildings in my companies, I have interviewed and came across probably 1,000 to 2,000 people yearly in interactional conversations. That's probably minimum. That's like nothing. And had deep conversations with individuals, business-like, interview-minded, corporation-minded, CEOs, like talented people. And I've never come across someone like me. Like I'm always, you know, my entire goal, which is funny, was when I was 20, 21, 22, all I wanted to do was find 4 me's and then put them to work for me. You know, and that was my that was my entire goal. Like, was to replace myself 4 times and never do anything again. And I spent a long time searching for that. And then I realized at the end, I was like, okay, that's just not me. There's no me. No. Right? Which would be great, but there's not. Yeah. And that's where, you know, that's where the peace came, because it's the end of the search, right? You just have to realize that you have a character, you have a game, you have a map, you have a destiny, and that's just you. And there is nothing else. Right, and that's the trip. But the thing that you offer, that the things that you have, is the knowledge to give people the why. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times having the why will give people the ability to then move forward, because they need testimonials.
And sometimes it's good, because sometimes they think, oh, there's no way I could possibly find a why. And by me being that why,
that's an excuse, but that's what people do. They have excuses because it's easier to say, well, I can't figure out why I suck, versus just going to prove you don't suck, right? People, the world that you live in is a negative world. It's designed to test your blind faith, which means to move through energy at a high level, even when the energy pushes against you, right? It's designed to test your will. I mean, we call it will, but that's what it is. Your will to win is where you make it. And some people who aren't even in their destiny can every once in a while break through the level of 100 and hit 130 to accomplish something no one else has, or they shouldn't have done, because they simply had the will to do it. And that's why they don't repeat it. Some people create something that's so amazing but can never do it again, because at that moment they exhausted their entire will to do it, but there's a limitation to their greatness. And they exceeded their greatness by 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it was. But that will never be achieved again, because that was just a moment.
Like Michael Jordan?
No, Michael Jordan was built to do, I mean, that's the difference between, like, I mean, Michael Jordan, that's why Michael Jordan is the GOAT for one reason. I've never seen him ever give up, doubt.
He just has something.
He does not believe you should beat him, and he does not believe that you can. Yeah. And when you do, he doesn't walk away defeated. Right. He walks away determined to make sure that whatever happened today will not happen again, right? And that is a quality in him that just,
God.
Yeah, he is. That, I mean, you could call it your God moment, or you're in God mode, but he walks every single step in that mode. There is no. He does not lose. Even when he...
That's why, like, when that movie came out, because then you could tell that came from his mom.
Even if he loses, it's a victory. Because what he learned that day was that you could beat him, and he needed to change that. Right? So when he lost to you, he just wanted to know how to... That's what the difference is here, right? When the Pistons were beating him up, he wasn't going looking for the why. All he wanted to know is, how can I? And how can he beat the Pistons was this: get stronger, get bigger, and whatever they're doing to you physically, be big enough to where what they do can't hurt you. You see what I'm saying? Now, what he could have done was taking more jumpers, not gone to the hole so much, pulled up, become a better jump shooter. He could have done a lot of things different to beat the Pistons that most people would have done by playing a different type of offense, right? But instead, he was like, what do you do good, and how do I beat that? And it was simple physicality. So you know what he did? He just went to the gym every day. And eventually he became too big to push around, too big to move. and he just blew by them. So once he countered their strength, they had nothing else because that's all they had. Then he could pull up for jumpers and just laugh about it because now he's getting his skills better. But he wasn't going to let you have your victory the way you wanted. He beat you. He took away your strength and then did everything else as a bonus. But he made sure you knew you couldn't do what you just did to him again. And that's why he's the GOAT. Never, ever. And you knew he wasn't going to lose. And even when he lost, you were like, oh man, so close. There was never a loss. Like Michael, when we lost games and Mike took that last shot and it rimmed out or something like that, we just were all like, ooh, you're lucky today. We never felt like you beat us. We just felt like we let you win. Because the way he carried himself was exactly that. I was off today. Congratulations. Don't expect that the next time. Right. And then the next time he would beat you and then beat you and he would just break your will.
Never fall off. Ever.
No.
Ever.
That's why he's the GOAT. And that's the difference.
Never had
I have seen LeBron James fall off, pout on the bench, cry on the bench, look like he's lost a game, give up, sit on the bench, yell at the bench. I mean, he's walked out of games down by 15 where his team had to bring him all the way back in the playoffs, and then he was excited again. That is a mental weakness. That is not a GOAT.
You'll never be the man that...
You're not a man. You're not a man.
And was still bigger of a man than you are at your
He'll never be the GOAT.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. GOAT is mentality.
Yeah, brother. You just don't
You can break LeBron's will.
Yeah.
So how are you a GOAT if you don't have blind faith? You're not. End of story.
It's okay.
No more conversations.
Okay.
Tired of hearing about it. Okay?
And you know what? His personality, he had Gemini rising. So his personality is kind of just childlike. You know?
He is a child.
It'll always be like that. You know what I mean?
He's a child.
He can't even help it.
He's not. Right.
See,
and that's what I'm saying. I'm not mad at him.
So that's why I know he can't help it. That's just
right.
how he was.
That's what I mean. See, you know, he would get mad and be like, I'm not like that. And you could be like, well, this is why you are like that.
I'm a Sagittarius.
You can't be not what you are.
Yeah.
You are what you are.
Yeah.
And people don't understand these sayings when they say, hey, you are what you are. But you are literally, you are what you are. You're born on a certain day, at a certain time, in a certain area.
But that's why he likes Savannah so much, because Savannah's more, like, I look at her chart, it's more like Sagittarius, Capricorn-like energy, which is, like, makes sense. I mean, she was a young mom, had to take care of these kids, had to balance being a mom, being a husband to an NBA player at the height of his career. Like, that's a mentality that's like really like, you know, like you have to be a mom. Like even now she has a podcast. She's like, now that my kids are growing up, like I got to figure out who I am because she just spent so much time in that energy. But it's just interesting. That's how I like charts.
Well, it's more than charts, but
yeah, it is more than charts actually.
It's the information is. It's not about the tools. It's about the craftsmanship. Everyone has a saw. Everyone has hammer and nails. But one guy makes art. The other guy makes a shitty looking table. Okay, that's where it's he who wields the tool is the true master. That's why people get confused because. Sometimes they're like, well, if I had the tool, I mean, yeah, is the tool going to make you 10 times better than you are? Yes. That's why we keep making better tools, and eventually we just make a tool that does it for you. Because you can't do what the other person does because basically you are who you are and that's not in your wheelhouse.
Right.
That's not your moment, bro. That's not what you do, you know? And that's where people have to kind of understand that once they learn their limitations, then they become limitless.
Right.
Steve Jobs didn't create Apple. He took the technology. Right. Okay? everyone who has these huge companies, they didn't make a company. They bought the company or stole it.
Right, like Christopher Columbus.
All of them. Yeah, he didn't find America. He stumbled upon it.
He just
but
gets
that's
to be the spokesperson.
But that's the example that the the British had to create in order for you to believe that they were great.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to obey a king and a queen if they're no one?
Right.
It's all about It's all about what you perceive. Okay, what you perceive is what you believe. You believe that the king and queen conquered the world when they didn't. They didn't conquer the world. They didn't discover anything. Christopher Columbus discovered nothing. It was already discovered. We're here. How can you discover something where people live? It's like me walking into Walmart going, I discovered Walmart.
Yeah.
They should put everything on sale. I mean, it's preposterous. But that's the books and stories they fed you because they have to fill your brain with false information in order to keep you contained where you don't ask why. Because once you do naturally what you want to do, which is ask why, because that's what you're going to do because you don't have blind faith, right. They give you your why so you could go, they're the greatest and created everything, so I obey. Yeah. Hey, tell me what to do, please, Mr. Government, because you are the almighty. Right. You were the ones elected, so you must be the smartest.
That's what they want you to
That's what they want you to believe.
That way they can put some strings around you.
Yes. Mentality.
And people will defend a system that they are very dependent on because...
what else do they know?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Right. I mean, come on. If you have spent your entire life following the obedience of a group of whatever, and you think that that's what was built to do what it's supposed to do, why would you question it when you don't have the knowledge or the blind faith to question it? Right. Your faith is based on their information, which is what they fed you. And that's why you're limited. Right? You have to always be questioning everything and improving everything. There is no perfect. There is no finished. There is only the present. And currently, whatever's here is simply the present version of what's available. It will not be the greatest version. The version that we make today will not be the greatest version in 20 years. Yeah. And it will not be that version will not be the greatest version after 20 years of that. Yeah. And eventually something will replace all the greatest things we've ever made. And then that become the greatest ideal. And then something will be included on that ideal to make it even better. And then eventually that will be replaced by another ideal. There is no end. We are limitless. But, like I was saying, the whole point was this, in the very beginning, was, when you mentioned, we think the same. The difference is that you get the ability to absorb everything I know at a high level without having to spend 30 years learning.
Yeah, ChatGPT now.
And now you can take all that and be like, okay, this is what it is. And now that I have all this, now you can add on to it and push it forward without the restrictions that I had to do, which was time. It takes time to learn a lot of things.
Yeah. You were that.
So your progress would be a lot faster than mine. But it's a very interesting moment to have all that. But it's always good to have that scenario where, understanding blind faith versus faith, potential versus lack of, execution. The world is a very simple place, and when you learn to just find whatever can guide you, and fortunately for you, your style and the way you create things and the way you understand is just going to be the next evolution of what my thought pattern is. And it's great because right now, listening to you speak or having conversations with you, when you regurgitate things that I've taught you, and then in a way that when you say it, I now see how you think. which allows me to then understand the way I should say something.
Yeah, we like.
You're like my Chat GPT, right? So the things that you have in Chat GPT or the videos and all these things that are currently happening, they are simply here because it is already that was the vision creation of everything of people like me that came 30 years ago. It is just showing you our information at a level that you can process today and quickly. And now when you start adding to that, that'll be where we explode and get to the next level of, once we understand the people who created everything or have been part of the big movement and all this, and we see what when we see what AI can do, like, we're going to then, that's going to allow us to triple our production and our thought patterns, which will then allow you not only triple what we did, but triple our greatest.
Can I do this?
Yeah. We're going to triple the greatest. So you'll be at a level where you'll be able to do things that were unthinkable. Like you'll have 100 years of future information in the next decade.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just from what I'm seeing out of AI, because here's the thing, you've never built a website with Dreamweaver. You've never written code.
No.
You've never spent 6 hours editing photos.
And ChatGPT gives me the code.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But you have never had to build, develop, create, write a sales plan, create a marketing plan, figure out people, understand people, execute better. You've never had to build the entire foundation of where we live today. You just have that automatically. So now you can build on top of that anything you want because there's nothing there. But the difference is, when you use AI, you're giving your current creations based off of the foundation that's already there, right? Because now you live in a different world, so you create different things.
Yeah.
Where an individual like me with mass, experience, AI is completely different experience for me.
Yeah, way different.
Because I understand how it was all made and how it got here.
Right.
And now I can go, man, if I had this 30 years ago, I could have did this. My thought process is way beyond yours.
Yeah.
Right? And you are, when you see that in the next decade, people are going to be like, holy shit. Because we already know what is possible, not possible. And now when you witness it, it's like having the aha moment going, what if we had something that could analyze all this at one time and give us all this data? We were thinking of this 30 years ago, and now we have it. So imagine what the people who thought what we needed to have to make our life incredible now have what we need to make our life incredible.
Yeah.
Like what we're going to do with AI, that's why I laugh, because all the young people are like, oh, I got AI, I got this in it. You have no idea what you have. That's like me handing you a Lamborghini when you've never drove it in your life, and you thinking you can beat me in a race.
Yeah.
When you can't even drive stick shift.
Yeah.
The thing that holds back current time and life and youth is ignorance of abilities. You have no idea what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that is your weakness, and that will always be someone who's young's weakness.
That's why I always felt like the more I know, the more the knowledge is power. I always felt that way even when I was young. That's why I always
experience.
made friends.
Not just knowledge, but experience.
Right.
Book experience is nothing. If someone asks me, yo, VC, should I send my kids to college? No. You know why? Because college isn't a real experience. No. What a college is a social, what they call it, a social experiment, right? And here's what happens. Your kids meet people. Now, what you could do if you wanted to send your kid to college, I wouldn't send them to a normal college. I would buck up, pay a half a semester in a very expensive college where people's kids of power and influence go to, right? So the billionaires of the world have children that go somewhere.
That's why I wanted to go to NYU.
Send your kids to that school for 1 year or 6 months and make friends.
Yeah.
and then play games with them, get on Xbox, be social media, become friends. And then when you leave, keep those contacts.
Right.
Because down the road in 5 years, when they turn 21 and they can do something, you have already been for the last 5 years out of that school. Right. You've already, from 18 to 21, you've been building a company. Yeah. So when they turn 18 and 21, 3-4 years later, they're like, hey, remember Paul? Yeah, man, Paul has 4 businesses, bro. We got to go check him out. He's been wanting us to talk to us. They're going to take their money and their power and move it over to you, which is where you lack. Because they don't have the business experience because they've been in school drinking and playing cards. Right. They haven't had real life experience. No. That's the difference. So if you're going to spend money and send your kid to a school, send them somewhere for 6 months or a year with the billionaire children for contacts, information, and then move on. Because your kid doesn't need that college. No. What your kid needs is to start a business, create companies, and now this was what I was talking about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Now, with AI, man, you are foolish if you don't do that. Your kids should be thinking of businesses at the age of 14, 13. As soon as they hit teen, you should have them on AI communicating their ideals. But what if this did this? Right? Because their mind is so open, they don't know what isn't possible. Right. So their possibilities are all possible. Right? Because they have no. They only have yeses. I want a dragon with a horn. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you can create when you have endless abilities to think. That's what everyone should be doing with their children, is connecting them. As soon as they turn 13, they should be on these 14 different AI platforms, talking, building, writing, seeing their image become to life, seeing it become a book, writing a story, rewriting a story, writing a chapter. And then one day they're writing books, stories, and they're learning. And then they're like, oh man, I make $100,000 a year from my YouTube channel. Yeah. And they'll have endless amounts of ability and money to create things that are just so easy. Right. And people who don't understand the world that we live in right now are missing this possibility for their children because it wasn't possible for them. And that's that thing again, faith versus blind faith, right? They need confirmation. They need Jesus to show up in 10 years with 1,000 or 100,000 people that built businesses on AI, where AI is now $10,000 a month because you have no access, and say, oh, I should have got in when it was free. But you needed Jesus to tell you. Kind of like, yeah. When you have blind faith, you move based on your beliefs.
Because you can already understand how the way the world is gonna work.
Yes.
That's why we both have that. That's why we're very intuitive. That's why people say, "Oh, you're so lucky." No, it's not lucky. I'm tapped in. My intuition's tapped in. I can analyze something, look at something, and be like, "Okay, this is the right move. This is not the right move." You know, it's kind of like understanding the flow of water. Once you understand the flow of water, you just go with the flow. That's why I like that Survivor challenge when they had to be underwater and the tide will come.
Up and down. That's life. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't breathe. Sometimes you take air. Yeah. Sometimes you need to take more air. Yeah. Sometimes you need to hold your breath longer.
That's the strongest indicator of who is a strong person. Like when Carla and that other dude did it, that I respected him. Because you have to diminish fear. You have to understand, I know that right now the water's here, but at one point it's going to stop and I'm going to be able to breathe. So let me just calm down, relax, stay with the tide, and when my time comes, it'll come. And that's hard to do. For an hour, 3 hours they were in there doing that. I know, that was incredible. Water out, coming in. Water, 3 hours. That will break people. That will break people.
People will spill their deepest secrets.
Yeah.
Because they could drown.
After that, I'm like, okay, yeah, Carla's real deal. And then I was surprised. I didn't think Carla was going to, finish that round. Because she's a big girl. I mean, not like,
But it's all mentality.
But I guess,
at that moment, you got to realize something. It's a mental game. Physical. And the thing about being when you're on Survivor, like a game show like that, the real quality that Survivor brings to you is it removes you from the world.
Yeah, from work.
Well, no. It removes you from the world. And what it does is, because you're still in the world.
Right.
But when you go from your town to a deserted island where there's no one but the people around you filming the show and the people that are also there with you, you have no one. You have no love. You have no husband. You have no mother.
Yeah.
You have no father. But what you don't understand is in your real life, though, some of those people are actually holding you back. Even though they love you, they might be saying things to you like, oh, that's a really good idea, but you got to remember, don't try too hard.
Right, with David,
right.
his girlfriend.
But you have to understand that.
Yeah, that's true.
The reality is the key to Survivor is why people have such dramatic life changes is because they weren't around the obstacles. Right. And their mind was this. Their mind doesn't go, okay, I'm in America, I'm in the world, and I'm just on an island and I'll be home soon. No, their mind goes to, I'm in a new place and there's nothing here. This is all new and all I have to do is try to survive. Yeah. When you get into survival mode, right, it's a different mindset and it creates opportunities for you to execute. Because if you don't execute, you die. Yeah. So your entire faith doesn't matter. Because you either going to execute and live or you're going to die. Yeah. So you no longer are waiting for Jesus to show up.
No, I got to get Jesus for me.
Right. I got to save myself.
I know,
when you have to save yourself, you eliminate excuses. Yeah. That's one thing about when you watch Survivor. That's why people are so drawn to it. Because they're like, oh my God, it was such a hard time for that person. It's because they're sitting at home and can't get through the hard times themselves. Right. They need to go away from everyone to have a hard time to survive. And then when they do, they're like, you know, I didn't know I could go 17 days without eating. That's what when they come back, when you accomplish things, you did change because now you believe, shit, I was on an island for 30 days. You think I can't go to work for a week? Yeah. Exactly. The mentality changes. Yeah. That's the one thing Survivor does that no other show does.
What I love about Survivor.
It changes you because you are you have no more excuses. Yeah. You have no more crutches, and the only thing you can do is execute. Right? That's it. That's why it's a powerful show, and that's why people love it. It's because everyone else is sitting in their home in the same town in the same place, and they can't get through these tough times. No. Because they haven't changed their environment. Right. That's the key, right? But what you have to do is you have to figure out how to be in the game of Survivor in your life, in your living room, in your home, in your day-to-day work. Yeah. How do I survive here? Act as if you're on the game of Survivor, right. And if you don't execute these things and get this where it needs to be, you will be voted off and dead. And if you played that game every day, you would become the best version of yourself. Yeah, you'll survive. Right. You change your life. Yeah. You might go, you know what? I'm scared of losing this job, but this job isn't actually good enough for me.
Fuck this dude.
Right. I'm gonna get a real job. Right. I'm gonna go find something that I deserve. Yeah. You start changing your entire philosophy.
That's what I liked about the documentary about The Biggest Loser, because for them, it was kind of like they had to survive too. Up in that gym, they had to be on the treadmill. Oh, right. Jillian gonna come and say something. You're gonna be.
And the reason why
for the live television.
Yeah, let me explain to you why that didn't work. The Biggest Loser didn't work because the reality was they didn't survive. No. They lived in fear. Yeah. They didn't make changes mentally to lose weight or to be a winner. They did it because they didn't want to get yelled at. Yeah. They did it because they didn't want Julian to come in. Yeah. They did it because they didn't want people to laugh at them. See, if you put all those people on Survivor, if you did a weight camp of Survivor, they would lose the weight and keep it off. Right. Yeah, you're right. Because that's a mentality change.
They're changing the mentality for them.
So when we watched that because I've never seen The Biggest Loser in my life. But when we watched the documentary, immediately I knew that they all put their weight back on. Yeah. because you didn't change who you are. You changed.
You cared about more about the numbers.
You were in boot camp.
It was all about the numbers.
You needed someone to change you. That's faith.
Yeah.
You don't have blind faith.
Yeah.
You weren't in any position where you made decisions that were better for your life on your own, which are the ones you're going to keep because they're blind faith. You basically existed because someone told you to exist. That's the difference. If people really want to lose weight, and this is what, a good show to create, should create a weight loss survivor show. Where you take all these people who are overweight, stick them on an island doing all these challenges, and at the end of it, they will actually come home different people because they weren't in a place where people were yelling at them or...
And you'll get all the biggest loser watchers.
Oh yeah, all day. That's what I'm saying, but that's a real experience. But the whole thing is understanding faith versus blind faith and realizing what it is. And once you manifest or understand the cheat codes of things, it makes life easier. It's a very fundamental principle. I mean, it's sometimes it makes so much sense to people. Like to me, this is so easy.
But that's why.
But it's like mathematical equations. It don't matter.
Yeah, but that's why I understand now when people are like, "Oh, you guys are a power couple." Well, it's because we both kind of have that element. So for you to have that, and also me to have that, and us to be together, that's powerful.
You have to understand, my search my entire life has been to do one thing, which was to find myself, right? Or to find something that was like-minded, right? And for whatever reason, that was my entire understanding of my purpose. And it's funny because when I stopped searching and I relaxed and I just kind of went with the flow of everything, I found what I was looking for.
And that's how I feel at the same time.
And at that point...
That's just crazy we did it at the same time.
Yeah.
That's
right.
the only reason why we met.
Right. Because you did the same thing. You had said enough of all this. I'm just going to be myself. And that is and now it's like watching, watching you speak. And like I said the other day, listening to my thoughts come out of your mouth is scary. Because I'm like, wow, imagine what she's going to be able to do without having to waste 30 years learning. So now you get to put a whole different spin on it, new generational, and then you include the knowledge, the knowledge that you have, or the gift that you have of this other, part of the equation. It's like yin and yang. It completes the information.
Yeah.
Like not only is the information here on how to be everything you want to be, but I can explain everything to where you can understand what you need to be. But then you come in and say, and this is why it is. So now it's like, oh, I've never actually saw that. Because everybody goes to motivational speakers. Everybody wants to be 369. Everybody wants to do positive talk, right? Everyone reads motivational books, Chicken Soup. But they never execute. Because they don't have the piece that's missing of the yin and the yang, right? And I can explain everything in ways that are just where you'd be like, damn, I didn't understand it like that.
Yeah.
But when you bring in your half to it and say, and this is why, there is no, you don't have to have any type of blind faith because faith is just delivered Jesus to you. Right. Like, here you go. This is why. It doesn't matter what you think or how you feel or what you want. Is your life always like this? Yeah, that's because this is this. Yeah. You were born here on this day and this time. This is it. Life. Right. And I can tell you.
I could have told you that the day you were born. I could have told you exactly.
I could have mapped your entire life out.
Yeah. From the day you were born.
From the day you were born.
That didn't just come to me now. That came.
Could you imagine
the day you were born?
having the ability to raise your child in a way?
That's what I'm saying.
If I know what you're saying, but that's what I'm saying.
I would pull up the birth chart.
But
9 months in a womb, I would have been mapping out.
Well, yeah, you have to put, if you love your child, you put your child in places that it will be successful or a higher percentage of success.
Right.
So as a parent, if you already understand where they should be, what they should be doing, what they will be, what they're good at, introverted, extroverted, physical, sports, dominant, leader, follower, manager, right? You could put an entire plan together and then do skills.
That's
for if you have an artistic child, then you let your child become supplies for artistic sides, creational sides. If someone's a leader, then you give them puzzles and things to be problem solvers.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? So you're actually doing the things that they want that will enhance their life in the future early. And that's what is important is the early stages. But this is a map to the freedom of their brain. So that's why you have to, that what you're finishing in the book that you have and your rules of raising a child or, blind faith child development is a very powerful tool, and that's why, once you finish it and you get your stuff, where you're at, it'll be great. But thank you for your time, babe. Love talking to you. I got to get back to work. Life's life. And what we say, like, the one thing in life that you always have to do, which is very important, is every time you have a conversation, just remember that instead of having a conversation with your opinion, have it with the thought of simply gaining knowledge. Because your opinion is not needed when you're learning.
And opinions can be limited.
And opinions are limited. And that's why opinions need to be removed. Yeah. When you can remove your opinion from conversations, you will enter another level of education that will advance you so far. Yeah. You'll be amazed. Right?
And that's why I'm like a very gullible person, because I don't hold my opinions. I actually hold other people's opinions above mine, which is why I'm able to learn so much. But that's kind of like, my give or take thing.
Yeah.
In this life, I'm trying to like balance.
Yeah, you're learning. It's just a thing. But the cool thing is, like, opinions don't matter, right? I've heard a lot of crazy conversations where I could have voiced an opinion, but you can't learn. I already know what my opinion is, but you can't learn what the world is if you're not listening to the people around you speak. Right. You have to hear what everyone's saying in order to go, okay, how do we meet halfway? Or what do I have to explain? Or how do I have to explain it that you get it? Right? Because it's not always the same. People might have a view of something. And 4 people in a row could have the same opinion, but they all have it for different reasons. Yeah. So you can say something and one of them would be like, oh, that makes sense. The other 3 like, nah, doesn't make sense. Yeah. You have to understand what everyone else's reasoning is, not what they're saying, but the reason. Like, you ever heard of cause and effect? Yeah. Cause and effect is simply reason and result, right? Stop listening to what people say. Listen to why they say it. Yeah. Then you will understand what you need to do. Sometimes you can't change it, but sometimes you can give better information to curve the result. Right? But like we said, people are who they are, and that's just who they are. You are who you are. And sometimes you can't change that, but you can curve it in ways that allow you to be productive. Right. And that's the key to success, is finding your weaknesses and building and finding replacements that solve your weaknesses. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. All right. Good luck. God bless. Have a good day, babe. Love you.